What a great start to this morning, hey? From the music to what Zol shared to this video and everything, I think it's hopefully going to be a powerful day. So let me pray before we start. Dear God, thank you so much that we have this opportunity to come and learn about you. Lord, just be with us. Open our hearts and open our ears and open our minds to seeing more of you today. Lord, let's walk away from here with more life. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, team. We are in week 4 of this fantastic series. And just to do a little recap like they did at the beginning, Bree started us off. On this epic journey, just talking about traveling light, this idea that actually life, maybe we should be traveling a little bit light instead of having all these different burdens, all these different baggages with us. And then in the second week, Graham spoke to us about self-reliance, and that was powerful as well. And then last week, we had Walter share with us, and that was such a powerful message that he shared around this idea of bitterness, something that I don't know about you, but I never really paid attention to until he brought it up. And I think, I've had conversations with people over the past week just on that topic, and it has been powerful. So hopefully it has been powerful for you as well. And today, we are having a conversation about the good old word doubt. I can already see the excitement in your faces about this conversation. But the reason why we're doing this series is because we wanted to have these conversations around these incredibly heavy topics. Because often through life we go through these, we go through life, and sometimes we ignore it, or sometimes we don't even think about it, or sometimes we just push it to a side because it's too difficult to deal with. And so what happens is we end up lugging around these huge bags, these different bags of doubt and self-reliance and bitterness and what we're going to be talking over for the next 2 weeks as well, when really we should be traveling around with lighter loads, right? And so our hope is that when we walk away from a weekend or throughout our week or at the end of this series, that actually, instead of traveling around with these huge heavy loads, that we're actually traveling and doing life with lighter loads. That's our hope. That's our hope and our vision for this series. And so I hope that today and throughout the rest of this series that this is what happens. But I wanted to start off this talk about doubt with a funny story. I was thinking about this over the past couple of weeks, and I was thinking, man, what is a story of my life where doubt was massive? All right, so the guy playing bass, Ben Jones. If you don't know him, you should get to know him. He's a lovely dude. But about 2 years ago, he invited me to his birthday party. Okay, it was a huge honor, and so we decided to go to Jump. Well, he decided to go to Jump. And I've never been to Jump before. It was incredibly exciting. All right, if you don't know what Jump is, there's a bunch of trampolines and obstacle courses and all this kind of stuff. It's very fun. You should try it sometime. All right. Anyway, we get to Jump, and we're jumping around, doing all these flips and tricks and dunking and all that kind of stuff. And then one of the people comes up to us, the people that work there, and says, hey, do you guys want to go on the ninja obstacle course? And I was like, oh, yeah, let's do this, right? And so we go to this ninja obstacle course. It starts off, I can't remember. Anyway, we're doing all these different obstacles, and then we come to this one part where we've got to climb up these like rope things, right? So it's obstacles in your way, and so we're climbing up and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, wow, this is fun, and I feel cool. And then we get to the top, and we go, yes, we've conquered this. This is so good. This is easy. What obstacle course, right? A baby ninja could do this. And then we come to the fireman's pole. Now, I'm deathly afraid of heights, okay? Deathly afraid of heights. And in that moment in time, the ground looked about 3,000 meters away. I was so afraid. And in that moment of doubt, I don't know what happened, all right? But doubt suddenly came and said to me, you're going to break your legs when you go down that slide. And I freaked out. I could not handle it. I freaked out. I was walking, I was pacing, and then I was like, you know what, I'm going to conquer this. So I stared at that fireman's pole, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this kid, he must have been 3 years old. No, I'm kidding. He was like 9. Without fear at all, literally jumps onto this fireman pole and goes down. And the entire time going down, he goes, "Whee!" And I'm like, what is wrong with this child? You should be as scared as I am. Where are your parents? Such irresponsibility, right? And that did not help me at all. I was like, if a child can do this, why can't I? And then I had lovely Ben come in, try and convince me to go down this fireman's pole. And I was like, Ben, I love you so much, but right now I want to hit you. Please just leave me alone. And so what ended up happening was I actually turned around and I went down the even harder obstacle, right? And I think this is what happens. This is what happens. Oh, I felt like an idiot. Anyway, but that was my funny story to doubt. But I think doubt is an ever-present feature in our lives. It's something that's so very, very present in so many different ways. There's good doubt, right? There's the doubt that actually makes us stop and actually evaluate and think and go, should I be doing that? Is that a good thing? Is that the right decision to make? Maybe I should go with that. Or maybe we stop and we realize, oh, that is actually the best decision, and so we move forward towards that. Now, that's the doubt that is good. And that's not the doubt that I want to talk about, because that doubt actually helps us to move forward, right? The doubt that I want to talk about is this crippling doubt. This doubt that actually stops us. This doubt that actually makes us want to turn around, run away, and hide. I have a problem with this doubt. Because this doubt doesn't help us move forward. This doubt doesn't help us evaluate. This doubt cripples our life. This doubt actually takes away from life. And if we have learned anything about this, during this series, is that we want to walk away with more life, right? And so what happens with the crippling doubt is that we start lugging around oversized baggage. And not just one bag, right? Because doubt doesn't do that. Doubt attacks a whole lot of different areas. And so suddenly we're walking around with multiple oversized bags. And that's not what God wants for our lives. That's not what we should want for our lives. And I think in some way or form, we've all experienced that. Whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're just figuring out this God thing, or whether you've been traveling on it for a long time. It's something that we all experience. And I would say actually, most often than not, whether we realize it or not, we actually allow it in some way to dictate our lives. Crippling doubt. We actually allow it to become the loudest voice in our head. Right? And so it speaks to us. Actually, it doesn't speak to us, it yells at us. And it says, you must turn around, and you must run away, and you must hide. For some of us, it can be as small as my incident at Jump, right? Where it literally physically crippled me. Where I literally turned around. I would turn around and went down the harder obstacle. And all I wanted to do was hide. I didn't want to do it anymore. Right? For some of us here, it might be a challenge that we face that has something to do with past choices that are affecting our today. And so doubt speaks to us saying this. It says this. Can I go to the next slide? Is that all right? There you go. You won't be able to overcome it. That right there, that thing that you are trying so very hard to do, to overcome, you won't do it. You won't be able to do it. You know what? Actually, you're trying much too hard, so actually you should just give up right now. You won't get anywhere. You won't overcome it. That's when doubt's speaking loudest, right? Maybe doubt's saying something like this. Maybe doubt's saying, you know what? You won't be a good parent. You're much too young. You're much too old. You've made too many mistakes in your youth to actually bring up another human being in a good way. So you know what? Just give up. Stop. You're not worth it. You can't do it. Maybe David's saying this. You're not worthy of being loved. You're not worthy of being loved. Without a doubt, you know what? You should give up right now. Just end it. You're done. No one loves you. You're not worthy of love. Maybe for some of us, it has something to do with our work. It's saying, hey, look, the work that you're doing is actually not that important. You're actually not making a difference to anyone. You're not making a difference to your family. You're not making a difference if you're working with poor people or people that are struggling in life. You are not making a difference whatsoever. So you should stop. Stop. This is what doubt says to us. You want to mount to anything. What are you even doing here? Right? For me, that was my struggle. Still is my struggle. For the past 2 years, especially with that last one, for the past 2 years, 2.5 years, that has been my struggle. When we were talking about this and planning for this, and Wes said, hey, look, I'd love for you to speak on doubt. I was like, dude, this is my life right now. What are you doing? Right? And as I was reflecting, I realized, man, doubt has been my best friend at times over the past 2.5 years. It has spoken to me in the loudest voice, saying that the work that you're doing here at Gracegate, dude, you're not doing anything. You're not actually making a difference. You should give up. And I'll tell you what, I'll be real honest with you. I came so very close to leaving. I was done. The voice of doubt was so loud in my head that I started to believe that it was reality. I started to believe the lies, and I was taking it as truth. That was me. Last night, I was freaking out about this because doubt suddenly came to me and said, bro, you're going to mess up. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just run, bro. Run. It'd be easy to get in the car and drive. Right? And I was like, oh my goodness. This is literally what I'm talking about tomorrow. I was crippled by doubt even last night. And the worst part is I doubted God massively. I actually became so angry towards him. Because I was like, dude, what are you doing? You've put me in this place here, and then you're allowing these voices to come into my head, and you're doing absolutely nothing about it. So I was mad at God as well. I was close. I was done. I was almost done. And then something shifted. Well, it was a lot of somethings, right? Hang on, let me get where I am. So as I was reflecting, right, just on my own personal journey, and then I had conversations with people, I kind of realized what doubt does. And it's very good at what it does. What doubt does is it actually diminishes our value, right? Doubt literally does this, diminishes our value. It says that you're not valuable. You're not important. It makes you doubt that. And the worst part is we start to believe it, right? So as the voice of doubt speaks louder in our lives, the voice of crippling doubt, our value decreases. And we begin to realize that we are carrying an oversized bag everywhere, or baggage everywhere, right? And what do? We listen to it. We entertain it. We allow it to be the loudest voice in our head. But then there's a moment, right? I don't know if you guys have experienced it. For me, that was that moment. Maybe for some of us, we'll go through that moment, or we've been through that moment, where we realize that we actually are listening to this voice. And this voice is telling us that our value is so diminished, and we actually start to believe it. And we realize this, right? And then we believe it. We say, this must be the truth. This must be the truth. And then we say, you know what? If this must be the truth, and I really am not valuable, and my value is worth absolutely nothing, then I cannot and should not and actually won't be allowed to approach someone like Jesus. Approach God, approach church or whatever it is. I won't be allowed to. I can't. I shouldn't. And maybe for some of us in this building, in this community, maybe we know people who believe this. Maybe we are those people. Maybe we are those people that believe this. We believe that because doubt has said so, that we aren't valuable. How can we be valuable to someone like Jesus? It's impossible, right? It's impossible. How? How? And so we doubt that Jesus sees any value in us at all. And this is what we truly believe. This is what I believed. And this is what some of us have grown up believing. Right? What if, though? What if we could potentially believe differently? What if we were given the opportunity to believe differently? Because although we might believe what doubt is saying about our value, and we believe that translates to how Jesus might feel about us as well, if we actually take the time to look at this thing that is, well, for some people find very scary, called the Bible, what we read and what we see isn't necessarily what we actually, well, what it says, right? It actually communicates the complete opposite. It communicates the complete opposite. So now we jump into the Word. And we're lucky because we have these group of guys 2,000 years ago that decided to write it down. Right? To write down the story, to write down the journey, to write down the narrative of Jesus and his time here on earth and their journey with him. And so we're going to look at a man called John, and he most likely wrote or dictated the book of John that described his journey with God and with the things that Jesus did and all of that. So before we jump in, I want to give you guys some background information, right? What I'm going to speak about, we're jumping into the story after Jesus comes back from the dead, all right? So the background information is Peter, in a moment of doubt, he's going to be our main character, denied Jesus 3 times, all right? And this is a defining moment. And what we're going to talk about and explore, anyway, it should blow your minds, okay? Okay, so Peter doubted and denied 3 times. Jesus was crucified on the cross and died. And then he came back to life 3 days later. Mary then told Peter and John, and then he even appeared to his disciples, right, in 2 occasions. And then even after this, even after Jesus appeared in the flesh to his disciples, okay, Peter and some of the disciples decided to go back to what they knew. So they actually decided to return home and continue fishing. And I actually love reading this because for me, in the terms of what we're talking about doubt, Peter still doubted his value despite Jesus still appearing to them. Peter still doubted his value. And so he went back. He literally did what we were talking about. He turned around and he ran back to what he knew, and he was hiding in his job as a fisherman. Right? And this is where we pick up the story. It's in John 21. So Peter and his disciples are catching fish where they've gone and set up, right? They're catching fish and they catch nothing, and they see a man on the shore, and they realize that this man is Jesus. And they start freaking out and they get very excited. And Jesus tells them to throw the net on the other side, and they catch a bountiful amount of fish. And then they move towards Jesus, who's on the shore. And Peter, being Peter, he like tucks in his robe and he jumps into the water without patiently waiting to get to the shore normally, right? And by the time they get to the shore, Jesus is like all calm and pristine, sitting down. He's got a fire going. He's got fish going. He's got bread and breakfast. Woo! And so this is where we pick up, okay? This is where it's such an interesting conversation between Peter and Jesus, right? So this is what he says. He says, this was now the third time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. So he appeared to them 2 times before. And he goes next. He says this, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these? To which Peter replies and he says, yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. And so Jesus said, feed my lambs. Okay, pretty standard. All right. Then he goes on. And then again, Jesus said to Simon, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me? And so he answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And so Jesus said, well, then take care of my sheep. Okay, why are you asking me a second time, man? Surely that's the last time. And then he says this. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter says this. Peter was hurt because Jesus had asked him the third time, do you love me? Peter was hurt. And so his response is this. He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. And so Jesus said, well, then feed my sheep. Why is this important? Why is this important? Why did Jesus ask Peter 3 times whether he loved him? And then after that said, was it feed my sheep, take care of my sheep, and feed my sheep? Why? Because it directly relates to the moment of doubt that Peter had where he denied Jesus 3 times and ultimately Jesus died on the cross. What Jesus did was he reminded Peter of his doubt. He reminded Peter of his doubt through denial, where he said that I have no idea who this man is. I have no relation to him whatsoever. And 3 times he did this. And I love it because it said that Peter was hurt when Jesus asked him the 3rd time. Imagine how Jesus would have felt when his closest person, the one that traveled with him for 3 years, seeing him heal and speak and teach and love like nobody has done before. Imagine how Jesus would have felt. Probably hurt. So it's such a cool, reflection to see this. And not only that, Jesus goes the extra mile. It's unbelievable. It's crazy. Because when Peter replies, yes, I love you, what does Jesus say? Jesus says, well then, feed my sheep. Take care of my sheep. Feed my sheep. See, Peter doubted. Jesus reminded him of that doubt. Jesus reminded him and said, hey, well, he didn't explicitly say it, right? But when he asked Peter, Peter, do you love me? And Peter said, yes, I love you. He reminded him of his doubt and then said, you are valuable to me. And how did he do that? What did he do? He gave him the opportunity to lead his church. He reinstated Peter. Before he said to Peter, even before he was crucified, right? He says to Peter, Peter, I will build my church upon on the rock of you, right? He says, Peter, you're going to lead the church that I'm building. And in that moment in time when Peter doubted to the point where he ran back to what he knew, he had no value. He probably thought Jesus was going, this guy doubted. I got to find new disciples now. I got to find 12 new guys. Such a pain. No, he went back to them. And he said, you know what? You doubted. You doubted. That's okay. Because I know you love me. And I love you. And I value you. And even though you doubted, here, I'm giving you responsibility. I value you so highly that even though you doubted, I'm giving you the responsibility of my people, to lead my people. It makes no sense. It absolutely makes no sense. Right? For some of us here today, maybe we know. Maybe this is us. Right? Maybe we know someone whose voice in their head is doubt. Doubt is the loudest voice in their head or in our head. And it's shouting at us that we are not valuable. That there is absolutely no value to us whatsoever. That what we should do is turn around and run away and hide. But this is not true. This is not true. There is a God that loves us and values us so highly. There is a God that loves us and values us so highly, despite the doubt that we will have. I mean, we saw it with Peter and we saw it with his disciples. They doubted. They doubted in who Jesus said he was, despite everything they had seen, and despite the fact that they traveled with him, and despite the fact that they believed in him. Jesus had every right to go and say, dude, you doubted. How could I ever value you that way? How could I ever trust you with anything? But he flips it and he says, oh, mate, you are so valuable to me. Take this. Lead. Continue. Run that race. Keep going. Because whatever doubt is saying, it's a lie. Believe what I'm saying. And I love what Walter was sharing last week about that whole thing of apokara dukia. I've struggled to say that all week. About shifting our gaze to him. About lifting our heads from those chains, from that voice in our head, and looking at him and realizing that this God that we believe sees us as not valuable because of the voice in our head that is saying that we aren't valuable. He is saying, my goodness, you are so valuable to me. I love you beyond anything else. You are the only thing that is important to me. So important that I will lay down my life for people. That I would do that because I value you and I love you. So while doubt might have the power to diminish our value, while doubt might have the power to make us turn around, to make us run away, and to make us hide, and tells us that we have absolutely no worth whatsoever, that we are not valuable at all, belief. And belief in someone that does. Someone called Jesus. Belief in that person that values us so highly. Belief has the power to restore our value and to propel us forward. To propel us forward. Because what did Jesus do afterwards? After all of that, after asking Peter and all of that, we find in the book of Matthew, he goes and he says, hey, look, for you 12, what I want you to do is I want you to travel the world, and I want you to spread who I am. I want you to go to every single nation and speak about me. What huge responsibility. I could have done it myself. I can do it myself. Jesus could have done it himself. And yet he gave it to the people that doubted him. And he said, here, you go. Because I value you so highly. And I love you so greatly, and I trust you with this. Go and do it. Run that race. And so this is what I want to challenge us. And when I mean us, I mean all of us, including myself. Whether we believe or whether we don't. Whether we believe in God or whether we don't. I want us to choose. Genuinely. I don't mean I'll think about it. Then I'll choose. No, I want us to choose. I want us to choose. Choose what you want to believe in. You can believe in the voice of doubt. You can, without a doubt. See what I did there? You can. You can believe in that doubt. Or you can choose to believe in someone that values you so highly. You can choose to believe in that. We have that choice. And that's the opportunity that we have. What if we had that opportunity to believe differently? Well, we do. We do. So choose. Choose to believe. But just so you know, okay? Just so you know, just because we choose to believe in Jesus, and the fact that he values us so highly does not mean that doubt goes away. As we have clearly seen in my life, the disciples' lives, doubt does not go away. In fact, doubt will shout louder. Doubt will shout louder. But I'm promising you, it's a big statement to say, I'm promising you, that what doubt is saying about your value is a lie. It's not true. What Jesus is communicating to us and what we believe in him and how much he values you, that is the truth. I promise you that. But I want to communicate one more story. And this was before, we're kind of jumping, but this is before Jesus asked Peter. And this was the first thing that came to my head when I was given this topic of doubt. And it's from John 20, verses 24 to 26. And here we have this guy called Thomas. Okay? He was one of the disciples. And so basically this is what happened. We'll read through it. So it says, now Thomas, called Didymus, one of the 12 disciples, was not with the disciples when Jesus came the first time. So they were in a house before Jesus appeared to them. They were like, wow, Jesus. But he wasn't there. He was freaking out and hiding somewhere else, right? So he was not with the disciples. And so the disciples, the other disciples, the one that saw Jesus, said to him, we have seen the Lord. And so Thomas says this, unbelievable! I have no doubt that you are telling the truth. Never again will I doubt. No, I'm kidding. He doesn't say that. He says this. But he said to them, and Thomas, he takes it to a whole nother level of doubt. He says to them, unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my fingers where the nails have been, i.e., he's going to put his finger in the hole. That's disgusting. Right? And put my hand not on his side where he was pierced, into his side. Oh, God. I will not believe it. Thomas took it to a whole nother level. He's like, I need to poke and I need to put in. And so what happens? Jesus does something crazy. Oh, no, sorry. Go back. Jesus does something crazy. What does Jesus do? It says Jesus did exactly that. They were hiding in this house. They had locked the door. And Jesus appears to them without even opening the door. I don't know how he did it. Don't ask me how, but he did. And he goes up to Thomas and he goes, Thomas, there you go. Put your finger. Touch my side. Do it. What Jesus did was the doubt that Thomas had and voiced, Jesus appeared and stepped into. And that's what he'll do. If our value is being diminished, Jesus steps into that and goes, let me restore it. Let me reinstate it. Let me lift you up once again, because doubt has brought you down. And you are so valuable to me. Let me lift you once again. The baggage that you are carrying around, that oversized baggage, it's not oversized for me. Let me take it. I'll take it. Picks it up. And so he tells Thomas at the end of this exactly what I've asked us, challenged us. He says this. He says, stop doubting and believe, i.e. choose. Choose to believe in me. Choose to believe what I say about how much I value you. Choose. And so Thomas replies and he says, my God and my Lord, i.e. I choose you. I choose to believe in you. And then Jesus does something great. He speaks to us. Who knew? He speaks to us. And he says this. Then Jesus told him, the disciples and Thomas, because you have seen me, because you have touched my hands and my side and all this, and you've literally seen the physical presence of me, you have believed. But blessed are those who have not seen, i.e. us, who have not seen and yet have believed. He was talking about us. He was talking to us. We don't get to see Jesus physically. We don't get to put our fingers in the holes in his hands and touch his side. But we are blessed and we are fortunate. And we are so highly valued because we believe despite not seeing. So choose. Choose to believe. I want to encourage us one final time. The band can come up. If we're curious, all right? If we're curious about this whole Jesus thing, if you are at a place where doubt is the loudest voice in your head, and this is like the last straw, like, man, I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel, and you want to give this Jesus, Christian, God thing a try, don't run away from it. I encourage you and I implore you, don't run away from it. Don't run away. Choose to move towards it. Choose to believe. Choose to move towards Jesus and that. Here at Gracegate, we are a community that is passionate about God. Okay? But we are passionate about people living life to the fullest. And we believe that God is the way to do that. We believe that we carry around these bags that are oversized. We have these chains and all of these different things, and we believe that God has the power to take those chains away. to lift those bags, those oversized bags, and move us in a direction, propel us towards a future where we are living life to the fullest. Doubt will be saying that you are not valuable. But Jesus says, through what he did and the people that he spoke with and journeyed with and talked to and healed and led and commissioned and put forth and asked to do his work, Jesus says that without a shadow of a doubt, you are valuable to me. You are valuable to me. So choose. Dear God, these topics that we're talking about and we are exploring are not easy. They might be bringing up some things in our lives that we would rather not deal with. And God, for some of us here today, doubt is the loudest voice in our head. And it is telling us that we are not valuable. But I know and I believe that that is not true. And though we may believe, we will still doubt. We will still have doubt. Lord, I just pray in those moments in time where we are struggling with that, when doubt is the loudest voice in our head, I pray, Lord, that we'll be able to shift our gaze to you. And we'll be able to look to you and realize that you value us so highly, that you love us in a way that is completely unimaginable and unfathomable. Lord, be with us when we choose. I know you'll show up. Lord, thank you so much for valuing us so much that you would die on the cross for us. Thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.